What happens when the most powerful advocate in professional wrestling becomes the target? When Paul Heyman, the wise man, the special counsel, the man who stands behind champions, finds himself standing alone in the crosshairs of a brutal, calculated assault? Welcome to Suplex Rumble, where we break down the biggest moments in wrestling. I'm your host, and today we're investigating one of the most shocking attacks in recent memory. The assault on Paul Heyman that left the WWE Universe demanding answers. Who did it? Why did they do it? And what does this mean for the future? Stick around, because this story has more twists than a steel cage match host. Before we dive into the attack itself, we need to understand why Paul Heyman matters so much to professional wrestling. This isn't just about one man getting jumped backstage, this is about attacking an institution. For over 3 decades, Paul Heyman has been one of the most influential figures in sports entertainment. From his days promoting groundbreaking wrestling in the 1990s to becoming the voice behind some of the biggest superstars in WWE history, Heyman's impact is undeniable. Think about it, when a wrestler needs legitimacy, they align with Paul Heyman. When someone needs to cut the promo of their career, Heyman delivers. He's been the mouthpiece for legends, the strategist behind championship reigns, and the connective tissue between generations of wrestling greatness. But here's the thing about being that powerful, that connected, that influential: you make enemies. A lot of enemies. Paul Heyman's entire career has been built on calculated manipulation, brilliant strategy, and choosing sides in wars that leave casualties in their wake. For every superstar he's elevated, there's another who's been left behind. For every alliance he's formed, there's a betrayal waiting in the wings. So when news broke that someone had viciously attacked Paul Heyman, leaving him battered and vulnerable, the wrestling world didn't just gasp in shock, they immediately started asking, who had finally had enough? Host, let's break down what happened during this shocking assault. According to reports from the scene, Paul Heyman was ambushed in what can only be described as a calculated, brutal attack. This wasn't a spontaneous fight that broke out during a heated segment. This was premeditated, strategic, personal. The assault took place backstage, away from the cameras, away from security, away from anyone who could intervene. Heyman was isolated, which tells us immediately that this attacker knew his patterns, knew his schedule, knew exactly when he'd be vulnerable. Witnesses reported hearing a commotion, the sound of equipment crashing, and when officials arrived, they found Heyman down, clearly in pain, unable to identify his assailant. The attacker had struck and vanished like a ghost. What's particularly disturbing is the nature of the attack itself. This wasn't just a shove or a single strike. Multiple sources indicate this was a sustained assault, repeated strikes, aggressive intent, the kind of beating meant to send a message that echoes throughout the entire roster. And here's where it gets really interesting: Paul Heyman either couldn't or wouldn't identify his attacker. Now, was he genuinely unable to see who jumped him? Or is the wise man playing a longer game, protecting information that gives him leverage? That's vintage Heyman psychology right there. Even when he's the victim, he's thinking 3 moves ahead. The attack left Heyman requiring medical attention and forced him off television for several weeks. For a man whose power comes from his presence and his voice, silencing him is the ultimate statement of intent. Host, so who wanted Paul Heyman hurt badly enough to risk everything? Let's examine the suspects. Suspect 1, the betrayed client. Throughout his career, Heyman has represented multiple superstars, but not all those relationships end well. When you're aligned with Paul Heyman, you're in a position of power, but the moment he moves on to his next client, you can feel abandoned, replaced, discarded. Think about the psychology here: you're a superstar who had Heyman's brilliance in your corner. You felt invincible. Then suddenly, he's advocating for someone else, and you're yesterday's news. That kind of betrayal cuts deep in this business. Could this attack be from a former client who felt used and disposed of? Someone who believed Heyman took credit for their success, then left them hanging when the next big thing came along? That's certainly possible. Suspect 2, the rival's enforcer. Paul Heyman doesn't just make enemies for himself, he makes them for his clients. Every time he stands in that ring and proclaims someone's dominance, he's painting a target on their back and his own. Perhaps this attack wasn't about Heyman personally, but about sending a message to whoever he's currently representing. In professional wrestling, if you can't get to the champion, you go after their support system. You take out their advocate, their strategist, their voice. Imagine a rival superstar or faction who knows they can't beat Heyman's client one-on-one, so they decide to remove the psychological advantage. Without Heyman's counsel, without his manipulation, without his mind games, suddenly the playing field looks very different. Suspect 3, the vengeful legend. Paul Heyman's career is filled with burned bridges. Promotions he's left behind, territories where relationships soured, legendary figures who felt disrespected or undermined by his ambitions. Wrestling has a long memory, and in this industry, people hold grudges that can last decades. Could this attack be old business finally coming due? Someone from Heyman's past who decided that words and lawsuits weren't enough, they wanted physical retribution? Suspect 4, the insider theory. Here's where things get really interesting, folks. What if this attack wasn't from an enemy at all, but from someone close to Heyman? What if this was orchestrated as part of a larger storyline of work that's designed to look like a shoot? Bear with me here, Paul Heyman is a master manipulator. Could he have arranged his own attack to generate sympathy, to redirect suspicion away from his clients, or to set up an even bigger reveal down the line? In wrestling, the most shocking moments often come from the inside. Or perhaps someone within Heyman's own faction decided he was becoming a liability. Power struggles happen in every organization, and when you're dealing with egos as massive as they are in professional wrestling, betrayal from within is always a possibility. Suspect 5, the wild card. Sometimes, the most dangerous enemy is the one you never saw coming. A debuting superstar making an immediate impact? A returning legend with an axe to grind? Someone completely unexpected who has their own agenda that we, the audience, haven't even been made aware of yet? Wrestling thrives on surprise, and the most memorable moments come when someone we didn't suspect reveals themselves as the mastermind. Host, as WWE officials investigated this assault, several intriguing details emerged that only deepened the mystery. First, security footage from the area was reportedly corrupted or missing. Now, in a multi-million-dollar production facility with cameras everywhere, that's incredibly suspicious. Either we're dealing with someone who has technical expertise and inside knowledge, or someone with enough influence to make evidence disappear. Second, multiple superstars were questioned, but everyone seemed to have an alibi or at least claimed they did. In the tight-knit world of professional wrestling, people protect each other, especially when it comes to matters that might involve management or law enforcement. Third, and this is crucial, Paul Heyman's own behavior after the attack was bizarre. Rather than demanding immediate justice, rather than naming names or pointing fingers, he became strangely quiet. The most verbose man in wrestling history suddenly had nothing to say. That silence speaks volumes. Heyman is either protecting his attacker for strategic reasons, or he's genuinely afraid of what might happen if he reveals what he knows. Neither option is comforting. The investigation also revealed something fascinating. In the weeks leading up to the attack, Heyman had been making unusual moves. Meeting with superstars he normally wouldn't associate with, having private conversations with management, behaving in ways that suggested he was preparing for something. Was he anticipating the attack? Did he know it was coming and try to prepare? Or was he involved in negotiations or manipulations that directly led to someone wanting him silenced? The WWE Universe has been dissecting every interview, every backstage segment, every social media post looking for clues. Fan theories have ranged from plausible to absolutely wild, but that's the beauty of a great mystery. Everyone becomes an investigator. Host, the assault on Paul Heyman didn't just affect one man, it sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling landscape. For his clients, whoever they may be at this time, losing Heyman's guidance is catastrophic. Championships have been built on his advocacy. Careers have been defined by his association. Without him, superstars who relied on his psychological warfare and strategic brilliance suddenly find themselves vulnerable. For WWE as a whole, this attack raises serious questions about security and safety. If someone as high-profile as Paul Heyman can be ambushed backstage, what does that say about protection for the entire roster? Management has had to answer difficult questions about protocols and procedures. The attack also shifted power dynamics throughout the entire company. With Heyman sidelined, alliances crumbled, opportunities opened up, and the entire hierarchy of the locker room underwent a seismic shift. But perhaps most significantly, this assault reminded everyone that in professional wrestling, the line between storyline and reality can become dangerously blurred. When does competition become personal? When does a scripted rivalry spill over into genuine animosity? Those questions have haunted wrestling throughout its history. For Paul Heyman himself, the attack represents both a crisis and an opportunity. He's a survivor, someone who's rebuilt himself time and again throughout his career. This assault, as brutal as it was, gives him something he's always thrived on: a compelling narrative, a reason to return with vengeance, a story that keeps the audience invested. And make no mistake, Paul Heyman will return. Men like him don't stay down. They calculate, they plan, they wait for the perfect moment to strike back. When he does return, whether it's with revelation about his attacker or with a new strategy that changes everything, it will be memorable. The question isn't if Heyman returns, it's what version of Paul Heyman comes back. Will he be more cautious, more paranoid, looking over his shoulder constantly? Or will he be emboldened, more aggressive, determined to reclaim his position at the top of the wrestling world? History suggests the latter. Paul Heyman has never backed down from a fight, and being attacked only gives him more ammunition for the psychological warfare he excels at. Host, the mystery of who brutally attacked Paul Heyman remains one of the most compelling questions in wrestling today. Was it a former ally seeking revenge? A rival sending a message? An unexpected enemy making a statement? Or something even more complex that we haven't yet uncovered? What we do know is this: in professional wrestling, every action has consequences, and this assault will have ramifications for months, possibly years to come. The truth will eventually emerge. It always does in this business, and when it does, it will redefine relationships and reshape the landscape of sports entertainment. Until then, we're all left speculating, theorizing, and waiting for the next chapter in this incredible story. What do you think happened? Who's your prime suspect? Drop your theories in the comments below. I read every single one, and some of you have insights that are absolutely brilliant. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of wrestling's most shocking moments, smash that like button, subscribe to Suplex Rumble for more wrestling content, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Remember, in wrestling, nothing is ever as it seems, and the best stories are the ones that keep us guessing until the very end. I'm your host, and this has been Suplex Rumble. Until next time, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep celebrating the greatest form of entertainment on earth: professional wrestling. Outro music and graphics, end screen, subscribe button, suggested videos, social media handles, production notes, visual suggestions, use original graphics and text overlays throughout, include generic wrestling ring imagery, not specific copyrighted footage, create custom illustrations or animations depicting the mystery attacker concept, use royalty-free dramatic music for background, incorporate your channel branding consistently, tone notes, maintain excitement and intrigue throughout, avoid making definitive claims about real events, keep speculation clearly framed as theory and analysis, respect all performers and personalities mentioned, focus on storytelling and entertainment value, engagement tactics, pose questions directly to audience, encourage comments and theories, build anticipation for follow-up content, create community discussion around the topic. This script respects copyright by avoiding specific footage references, maintains YouTube community guidelines by keeping content respectful and appropriate, and delivers engaging wrestling content for your audience.